Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Gregory Wright Show. Today is October 27, 2025. And what you're about to hear is the Speaker of the U.S. House, Mike Johnson, give an update on the government shutdown, which has reached its 27th day. As of now, there were 1.4 million federal government workers who missed a paycheck last week. Another millions and millions and millions of children and single moms and other families in need are doomed to be missing out on SNAP benefits for the month of November. A lot of states are tied to federal funding that supplements their supplemental nutrition program. And so without the money coming from the federal government to supplement those fundings for the SNAP program, there are some states that are scheduling a non-delivery of benefits come 1 November. And without saying too much more, let's get into it.
Good morning, everyone. We're now on day 27 of the Democrat shutdown, and we want to review with you a few pertinent facts and explain a little bit about some of the really painful things that are going on around the country. We're delighted to be joined by our dear friend, Kelly Loeffler, former U.S. Senator and now the leader of the U.S. Small Business Administration, and she can speak specifically to some of the great hardships that are being felt by the people who provide jobs now around this country. Day 27 means it's almost been a full month since the Democrats shut down the government. And as we near the end of this month, the pain being felt by so many hardworking people around this country is very real, and it gets worse with each passing day. Here's some of the stats. Last week, 1.4 million federal workers missed a full paycheck. Now, you know, many of them are furloughed, and many more are deemed essential workers, those who are essential, for example, to keep the country safe. TSA agents we've discussed, and air traffic controllers, and border patrol, and of course our troops. But so many of them now are going without pay. The families of military service members and the air traffic controllers and so many of these others are now at very real risk of missing the paycheck at the end of this month. The Trump administration has done everything possible to bend over backwards to try to find sources of funding within the federal government to be able to cover the bases, but it is getting more and more challenging with each day. Now, every Republican in Congress wants to stop this madness desperately. And we have voted many times, over a dozen times, collectively 13 times, to reopen the government, to keep it open and reopen it once the Democrats closed it. But here's the very simple and important fact that no one should forget. We have no ability. Republicans do not have the ability to do this on our own. It's a simple math problem. We need Democrats to help. You need 60 votes in the Senate. We only have 53 Republicans. The Democrats are the ones voting repeatedly to shut down the government.
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there. So there's a mixture, a total of 100 U.S. senators that work in D.C., right? I believe 53 are Republicans, and then the remaining are Democrats. Right? In order to pass this clean continuing resolution that's been voted on 13 times since the shutdown, we need seven U.S. Senate Democrats to work with the Republicans to vote on the CR to get the government open for a 7-week period so that Congress can negotiate extending the Obamacare medical benefits, other things that Democrats are willing to shut the government down for, which we just cannot stick in a CR. We need the government open so that Congress could get into full session to discuss other ancillary but important things to approve the FY26 budget. We've been in FY26 since October 1st. And so we are still operating at the Biden-Harris spending levels. The CR, the continuing resolution, by the way, that Chuck Schumer and his Senate Democrats voted for 12, 13 other times. What makes this time different? Well, Mike Johnson is about to get into it. And without saying too much more, let me continue.
But they're not opening it back up. They spent most of their time trying to distract the American people from the very simple truth. So I brought you a little visual aid here to just remind everybody what the simple facts are. 4 simple facts here. The Democrats are required to open the government. They keep saying Republicans are in charge of government. We aren't. Not in the Senate. 60 votes control the Senate. Not a bare majority. And so point number 1, Democrat votes are required to open the government. Point number 2, they refuse to do it. They have now voted 12 times to keep the government closed. And they'll have another chance today or tomorrow, maybe multiple times this week, and we'll see what they do. Now, the third point is very important because they've been trying to confuse the American people. They've tried to say this is a fight about health care or this or that or any other thing, and it's very simple. They put this on paper. They made this their demand in writing in the record of the Senate, and it has not changed. These are just 4 subpoints there under fact number 3. But there's many more. But among the things they're demanding, this is what the Democrats in the Senate are demanding to reopen the government. They want to give $200 billion in health benefits to illegal aliens and non-citizens, paid for by U.S. taxpayers. That is in their proposal. They want billions in wasteful programs to be returned to foreign countries. So we stop these things. They want to turn it all back on. They're demanding that we do all that to get the government open for hardworking Americans again. They want to give $500 million to left-leaning news organizations, and they want to cut $50 billion from rural hospitals. We will not do those things. And they know that very well. Which leads us to point number 4. The Democrats have now openly admitted, and you all had to cover it last week, that they're using the pain of the American people as their leverage. That was the number 2 ranked Democrat in the House. The Democrat, the minority whip, who said that, acknowledged it in an interview, that this is leverage. And Chuck Schumer himself boasted that every day of the shutdown gets better for us. That's his now infamous quote that he wishes he had not said out loud. But you know what they're doing and why. Why are they demanding these things? Why is point number 3 so essential to them? Why would they do this? Because it's unprecedented, as we've noticed, and reminded you all, they voted for CRs every time it was possible in their lives, as recently as March of this year. But they're doing it to appease their far-left Marxist base.
That's the truth, guys. That's the truth. When Mike Johnson says that Senate Democrats are using the pain of the American people by not paying them, by not paying federal workers, then those federal workers are going to have a hard time paying their bills, paying other pertinent aspects of their lives to keep them afloat. Without a paycheck, none of that is possible without relying on family and friends and other government assistance. Now, I've heard somewhere in this speech where you got federal workers that are going to soup kitchens and food lines now. 27 days in the government shutdown. That is a disgrace. And this doesn't have to happen. And the only reason why Chuck Schumer and other Senate Democrats are doing this is to appease, like Mike Johnson said, to appease the far radical left part of their base. What do I mean by that? I mean guys like Zohran Mamdani, the primary Democratic candidate to become the next mayor of New York City. He wants to abolish the police. He does not denounce the global intifada. He does not denounce all of the riots that have been anti-Trump riots that have been going in the streets in New York, LA, and other densely populated areas throughout America. He wants to tax the rich. He wants to provide free everything to his constituents. And you can't do any of that without having a way to pay for it. If you don't have a viable tax base to collect the money to pay for these ideas, those ideas are only that on paper. It will never come to fruition. Another far leftist is Kamala Harris. Another far left. Another far left is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They all believe in the same thing: abortion up to full term, men and women sports, putting gay and transgender issues and characters in our face day in and day out, having it in children's books and children's programming on TV. That's far left. Radical far left believes in that Israel should not exist. This is not coming from me. This is coming from guys like Zohar Mandani. He says it on TV. Billionaires shouldn't exist, which billionaires employ hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people across the United States and throughout the world. So those are just some of the far radical left ideas that moderate Democrats 10 years ago wouldn't have never dreamt, like Mario Cuomo 20, 30 years ago. I mean, he passed away now, but old school Democrats such as myself, I consider myself an old school Democrat. I will never go for that kind of stuff, which is the reason why I switched parties. The Republican Party is the party for the people. The Democratic Party is the party of hatred and death. Mark my words.
That's the headline. That's why. That's why we're all in this mess. That's why the American people are suffering pain, because the Democrats are more of why. Why are they demanding these things? Why is point number 3 so essential to them? Why would they do this? Because it's unprecedented, as we've noticed, and reminded you all. They voted for CRs every time it was possible in their lives, as recently as March of this year. But they're doing it to appease their far left Marxist base. That's the headline. That's why. That's why we're all in this mess. That's why the American people are suffering pain, because the Democrats are more afraid of the Marxists in their base than they are of hardworking Americans. See, they've made an evaluation that they have to appease the Marxist base, that they're so concerned that they'll lose their jobs if they don't appease the far left in their party. And they sat in a back room and they made the calculation that they would rather shut the government down and impose all this pain on the American people, because they believe the Marxists, the far left in the base, are more active than hardworking Americans, people who go vote. And so they made the calculation that it's worth it to them. Every day gets better for us. We'll use the pain as leverage. For what? To prove to the far left base that they won't give in, that they'll fight Trump and fight the Republicans. What are they fighting? It's a clean CR. It's the same level of funding that they have voted for as recently as earlier this year. They are Biden-level policies and spending. This is not some Republican wish list. We don't have any of our priorities in this at all. It's the Democrats' own product. But they have decided to flip the script this time because they were getting too much heat from the far left. The facts are so simple.
Before we continue on, I would just like to point out a couple of things real quick. So when Trump campaigned last year and before he won the election in November 2024 in a landslide, he said repeatedly that he was going to conduct the greatest mass deportation that America has ever seen. And it is within presidential power to follow the laws that are already on the books when it comes to illegal immigration. If you come to this country here illegally, you are going to get captured, processed, and deported. It's that plain and simple. And so what the Democrats have done, they've took the Trump administration to court, whether they were right or wrong, or whether or not they were going to lose or win. They didn't care. Whenever a Democrat or whenever the system works in the Democratic favor, and they find a judge and they find a jury or a group of people to listen to the argument, it gums up the deportation effort. You know, there are temporary stops here, there are temporary stops there. And overall, the Trump administration is triumphant in the fight against deporting, or the fight for deporting illegal aliens, and the fight against the Democratic effort to stop that. So overall, I think we're doing well. So that's one area where far radical left Democrats are attempting to gum up the works when it comes to the Trump administration's promise to the over 77 million voters who voted for him to serve as number 47 in our White House. This is another area, right, to where I'm not going to repeat what I said, but, you know, the Chuck Schumer and his Senate Democrats are purposely causing pain on the American federal workers and other workers who rely on federal contracts to do their work. And this coming November, we're due to have millions and millions. I think the number's like 42 or 43 million beneficiaries of SNAP to not have benefits loaded electronically on their card. And if those benefits are not there, of course, obviously those families are unable to get food without relying on family and friends and churches and soup kitchens. So as long as the government remains shut down, the economy slows, because if you're financially affected, like a federal worker or someone who's receiving SNAP benefits, if you're affected by this either directly or indirectly, your tendency is going to be to spend less, which is going to slow down the economy. And so this is another way that the Democrats are purposely gumming up the works, much like the mass deportation effort. President Trump's economic effort to get things rolling and interest rates low and people borrowing more because money is cheaper when the interest rates are low, and the economy is booming because people are not scared to spend or more apt to save for a rainy day. You know, they're out there, they're shopping, and we're getting into holiday season. The economy is going to slow down so significantly that I think the president is going to have to do something, come up with something to, open this government up. But there's another area where the Democrats attempt to gum up the works, and I think that's really foreign policy. So you got the Hamas and Israeli ceasefire, which is huge news to, huge good news to me, not good news for the Democrats and the mainstream media, who attempt to downplay this peace effort happening between Israel and Hamas. And there are other areas of foreign policy where the mainstream media doesn't give Trump the credit he deserves, or magnify the effort to a point where if you speak to a normal person who watches CNN out on the street, they wouldn't know anything about it, because they would not show the good news that Trump is doing around the world. When we do these trade deals, when you hear these tariff wars going on, it's reciprocal tariffs. It's tariffs on countries who tariffed us. So if you want our tariffs to lower, then you have to lower yours on us and allow our goods and services to enter into your country, like China, like Germany. There aren't too many American cars rolling around in China, Germany, or India. So, these tariff wars have to happen in order to, one, get these countries that are charging us high tariffs to lower theirs, and we'll lower ours, and we can have an even trade exchange of you bring your products over to the United States and we'll sell them, and you do the same for us. We'll bring US products over to your country and you can sell them over there, and we both benefit. But before Trump took office this January, it was lopsided. We were getting tariffed the heck out of us, right? And then another reason for the tariffs is, hey, if you're Mexico or Canada and we still see illegal aliens crossing the border, or if we still see fentanyl crossing the border, that's going to be additional tariffs on you. So the thing behind tariffs is a negotiating tool. Hey, do this and you won't get tariffed, okay? But if you don't work and if your efforts are not aligned according to American first policies, then you're going to get tariffed. I'm sorry for going long-winded, but I just wanted to point out a pattern of the Democratic Party, especially the far left, radical left part, purposely gumming up the works in various aspects of the Trump administration's efforts to get this country rolling economically and on foreign policy, and getting the millions and millions and millions of illegal aliens who are here illegally back to their country of origin.
And I'll give you Exhibit B as to why this is so true. On Friday, there was a little bit of a seismic shift in politics. All of you noticed it over the weekend. We saw our clearest sign yet that this radical insurgent movement in the Democrat Party is succeeding. And they are ending what has always been known as the Democrat Party in America. After a months-long pressure campaign from the far left, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries finally relented. He gave in, and he gave his endorsement to the socialist running to be mayor of New York City. The House Democrats have chosen a side. They were forced to by that far left that they're so terrified of, and they've shown the world what they really believe. There is no longer a place for centrists and moderates in their party. The candidate that they have endorsed, Mamdani, is somebody who we've talked about a lot from this podium. He's sympathized with Hamas and openly embraced anti-Semitic language. He has called to, quote, seize the means of production because he is a Marxist. He's called to abolish our borders, to abolish and end immigration enforcement, to defund the police, and to legalize prostitution, among a long list of hits that I could share with you. Zoran Mamdani is expected to take the helm of one of the most important cities in the world and the largest city in America. And he now has the full blessing of the Democrat leader in the House of Representatives. It is shocking. And that leader and all the other Democrats are going to co-own the consequences of what they do to America's largest city. Every reporter in this room should be asking every House Democrat individually whether they too agree with Hakeem's endorsement of the Marxist agenda. It's an extraordinary moment in the history of American politics, as this is not the kind of history that we need to be making. What we're witnessing is truly the end of the Democratic Party as we've known it. And even some Democrats are now saying that out loud. You can see it in their interviews. I watched one last night. All this is directly related to the Democrats' shutdown show. Why? Because just like they decided to save their own skin, that they had to endorse the Marxist Mamdani in an unprecedented move, they have also decided they had to shut down the government in an unprecedented move. No matter the pain it inflicts upon hardworking American people, they are simply more afraid of the Marxists in their party than they are of voters. For the sake of our country, we pray that their calculation is wrong. We believe it is dead wrong. And as much as they try to obscure it, as much as they try to distract you, as much as they try to say that it's about any other issue under the sun, all those issues were always scheduled to be decided. Healthcare, the expiring Obamacare subsidies, the NDAA, the appropriations, all these other things, it was always on the calendar. for Republicans and Democrats to hash it out in October, November, and December. This is not a surprise to Republicans. It's not a surprise to Democrats, and they all know it. That is the only thing they could grasp onto to try to give some sort of argument, to try to give cover for the fact that they're running from the far left base of their party. Facts are facts.
All right, well, I'm going to leave it there. I think you get the gist of Mike Johnson's message to America. I think he's on point with his messaging. Day after day after day, he's holding a press conference, or he's hosted on one of the mainstream media news segments, really hammering the point home. I'm not going to repeat myself, but I just want to know what you think in the comments below. Please share this so we can increase the algorithm, so that more people can see this content and judge for themselves why the reason why the government shutdown is happening. And again, I will put a bow on it. It is not the Republicans' fault for the shutdown. They passed a clean CR that passed this past March and 10 other times before that at the Biden-Harris spending levels. If they passed it then, they should pass it now. Again, you'll hear an argument about, well, the Republicans control the U.S. House, the U.S. Senate, and the White House. Well, in the Senate, they do have a majority, but in this case, I think it's 53 to 47 or something like that. So, 53 to 47. But in this case, the Republicans need 7 Democrats to pass this clean CR to get the government open. And they just refuse to, time after time after time. And it's because they want to show the far radical left base that they have the balls to stand up to President Trump, which is stupid because, like Mike Johnson said, all of these discussions about healthcare subsidies and things of the like were already scheduled to happen during October, November, December. We were supposed to pass the CR before October 1. And so for the government to be open for 7 weeks while they hash out negotiation details. But let me know what you think. That's a summary. And hey, just share this video, man. We need to get the word out. Thanks for joining.